everybody. If I could get your attention, please. My name is Leila Abu Talib. I'm the president of United Walnut Taxpayers, and I have with me here Sharon Liu, president of the Chinese American Association of Walnut. And on behalf of both of our organizations, I want to thank you for coming and your eagerness to get to know our candidates. I want to thank all of our candidates for participating in this Mount SAC forum. We have two forums back to back. We're going to start with Mount SAC and then move on to the City of Walnut forum. And I'll have Sharon go over some of the rules.
Thank you everybody for coming, and of course we also want to thank the candidate for coming out here and share their viewpoint with us. So let's please make sure that we give them the respect and courtesy. We want to ask questions that are pertinent to NASAC issues, and we will only take questions in writing. And we have monitors that are coming around with their questions and pens. So if you need something, just raise your. If you need a card, just raise your hand, and they'll be walking up to you. So if you have a question filled out, go ahead and raise up your question, and then they'll come around to write the questions from you. We'll pass the questions to Anthony, who's our moderator, and he will go through them, and then he'll combine and address the questions to the candidates. Each candidate will have a minute to answer the questions after they go through their introduction.
And at this point, I would like to introduce our moderator, Mr. Anthony Duarte. He is the president of the Regional Chamber of Commerce for South Florida. I'll let him go over his guidelines.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me, son? Good evening, everyone. My name is Anthony Duarte. I'm the executive director of the Regional Chamber of Commerce, San Gabriel Valley. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Regional Chamber, we cover the communities of Denver, Walnut Heights, Hacienda Heights, Avocado Heights, Bassett, Provenza, La Fuente, and right here in the beautiful city of Walnut. And before we begin, I ask our council member Eric to come lead us in the pledge of allegiance.
Christ, to your hand, open your heart. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, thank you. Again, if anyone has any questions, we will only be taking them in written format, so please get an index card, there's pens in the back, cards in the back, and you can hand them to one of the runners. We'll try to get to as many of them as possible. So, the way the format's going to work is each candidate is going to be given 2 minutes to provide an opening statement, and at the end they'll be given 1 minute to provide a closing statement. Each candidate will have the opportunity to answer each question. Your answer is limited to 1 minute, so please keep them concise. Please be respectful, and the audience member as well, please be respectful. We appreciate you all being here on Friday night. This shows how engaged you are here in the community, especially with the Dodger game going on right now. So we appreciate you all being here, being engaged. It's important to know what the candidates stand for. I myself am a school board member for Hacienda La Fuente School District, so I've participated in many of these myself. So thank you for being here. Thank you, candidates. So we'll go ahead and get started. We pulled numbers in the very beginning to have the order. And Mr. Brown, let's start with you.
Well, good evening, and I want to thank you for the city to hear your
And then really quickly, there's a timekeeper. You show the monitoring for you guys, okay?
637.
Which country? You show all of them?
30 seconds and
Very good. Well, my name's Michael Miller Brown. I use the whole thing because there's a lot of Mike Browns, and this is it's the fact that I have a very common name. I want to thank you guys. Hello. I'm not used to talking to Bill Mike when I teach. I can usually project. So anyway, my name is Michael Miller Brown. The reason I use the whole thing because I think it sounds better than Mike Brown because you all know Mike Brown. There's a lot of us out there. But anyway, I want to thank you for showing up. I want to thank the organizations for putting this together. I want to thank Anthony for being involved with the Chamber. I'm one of the founding directors of the Regional Valley Chamber of Commerce. past president, also of the Regional Chamber, and was a member of the Walnut Area Chamber of Commerce, and a long time ago, where actually I could go through a bunch of different people, names that we went back. I did a taste of walnuts here in the 90s. I did a few other odds and ends with that. I'm also a veteran, and I've been teaching for a lot of years. I'm a certified public accountant, a master's degree out of the University of that's going too fast. University of Southern California. And I've taught here at Mount SAC for 22 years part-time. University of Laverne for 3 years. Cal Poly Pomona for a year. DeVry University for 6 or 7 years part-time. So I give to the community in a part-time area. I'm teaching people federal income tax law, accounting. In my spare time, I have an office here in Walnut, up on Amar, where I deal with internal revenue problems for people, do tax returns. And I'm really much involved in the community by my past chamber work, the fact that I've been given to students for a long time. I'm community oriented. I've been here in Walnut for 30 years. So I really want to thank you for coming out, and I'm interested in seeing what we can do to make our community work with Walnut. And as a city, with working in the areas of Mount SAC and making sure we don't have any more lawsuits, I want to ask you for your vote.
Next, we have Gabriel.
Thank you. I want to thank the organizers for planning this event today. First of all, there are 4 candidates up here tonight, and all 4 of us have crossed paths before, because in June, we were all applicants for the Mount SAC position. I was the candidate who was selected in June. And one of the reasons I was selected was because of my history of giving to the college. Until this election, most of you have never heard about me and my support of the college. And the reason why is because that was the plan. We gave not for recognition or any awards. We gave to the college because there was a need and we thought that the money was well spent. I will not go into the list of things we've done. If you're interested in my past contributions to the college, it's available at my website, www.votegarychild.com. There is a second reason why I was selected as the trustee, and that was because I had a long time standing here in the community. The college recognized that the relationship between the city and the college was at a low point. They were hoping that my presence on the board would help bridge the gap between the city and the residents, and we would start on a new trend forward. Yes, we have things from the past. We have the parking structure, we have the solar farm, we have the dirt from the stadium. Let me give you an update of what's happened here. The parking structure has been moved to the east end of the campus. The solar farm has been abandoned, and the dirt from the stadium is not going to be moved to the west parcel. Last week I discussed sharing of facilities with several city council members and the city manager. We are making progress. We think it is in the right direction, and these are some of the reasons why I feel I'm uniquely qualified for this office. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. I also would like to thank all the organizations for putting this event on. My name is Ruth Luban, and I want to serve on the board for Mount SAC Board of Trustees because I understand the problems the college and the community have had with each other, and I'm confident that I have those skills to help mend them, the relationship between the two. You know, I'm a proud mother of 6, one of whom attends Mount SAC, but I'm actually more than that. I'm an award-winning science teacher with LA County, but I'm actually more with them. I have faithfully represented the interests of tens of thousands of teachers and students at the local, state, and national level, but I'm also more than that. I'm someone with a fresh perspective who is committed to making sure that your tax dollars are spent on the best programs and projects to serve Mount San Antonio and the community as well. I've been a tough but fair negotiator for years, and I know how to find common ground while maintaining the principles that are necessary to stay dedicated to your core mission. The community has been a very strong supporter of Mount SAC and its goal to ensure that students are career and college ready when they leave. That support has come in the form of bond measures such as RR and GO on the upcoming ballot. But I also know that you have not always felt like the college has taken to heart your concerns about how these projects will significantly impact the businesses and neighborhoods surrounding Walnut and Grand. That needs to change. While I will be happy to work with President Scroggins and his administrative team, the Board of Trustees can and should do more. We need to provide as much transparency as possible to the entire decision-making process at the college. And sadly, trust has been broken. Now trust, it has to be restored. By providing an outsider's point of view, I firmly believe I can help rebuild the bond between college and community that we would all like to see again. Thank you.
Also, you're going to get political
Credit for that, huh?
I already need help. I'm Andrew Collins, and I've been a resident of Walnut for 30 years. By profession, I'm an attorney. I have participated in Walnut city politics for the last 4 years very actively. I've attended city council meetings and spoken on many issues. Oh, I'm sorry. I have attended city council meetings and spoken on many issues. I've attended many Mount SAC Board of Trustee meetings and spoken on many issues. Most of the issues that concern me as an individual have ended up turning into the organization and forming a group called United Walnut Taxpayers. And the whole purpose of United Walnut Taxpayers was to try to bring some accountability and transparency to what was going on at Mount SAC Community College. And I was happy to hear Gary indicate that many things have changed as a result of the organization and the efforts of United Walnut Taxpayers. But that's just the beginning of where we need to go. Mount SAC is called a community college, but it has to adopt that view that it is in fact a member of the community. The community is Walnut, surrounding cities, and all of those cities need to be at the table to discuss things that that Mount SAC wants to do, especially when they're asking us for additional taxpayer increases. The citizens in Walnut, West Covina, and Covina will probably suffer a higher tax rate as a result of the current bond of $750 million because the home values are higher in those three cities. I believe that there are other ways to achieve and maintain the current level of good quality education that's at Mount SAC. For example, the argument isn't that if we don't pass Measure Go or we don't give Mount SAC the money that somehow the educational standards of Mount SAC will fail. No. Mount SAC will continue to have high educational standards, high goals. They have a great faculty, they have a great student body, and they have a great record. They have that without the $750 million we're asking for now. I'm asking for your vote so that we can bring more accountability and transparency to Mount SAC. Thank you.
Wonderful, thank you. So, leading, based on that last comments, we'll go right into it. So, why do you support or oppose Measure Go? Rob?
I can't support Measure Go.
Can't hear you. What was your position again?
All right.
Yes, that's better.
I live with therapy, and there's a reason. But anyway, so I am not in support of Measure Go due to the fact that it's an increase in our property taxes. It's increasing taxes at this point in time.
You need to be louder. Right your mouth.
Okay.
Yeah, well, that's better.
So I am not in support. And the reason is that the tax base see spending more money until we get rid of what we already passed the major R. And the projects are done. I think that we can reach out and find a better use of $750 million to do more infrastructure. And that's what it sounds like. It sounds like we're doing more buildings. I think that we can better support our community by taking into account that, as Mr. Collins was saying, is that we're pretty well in a good position with Mount SAC the way it's doing right now. I don't think we need to build more buildings, make more progress.
I am in favor of Measure Go. I'm a trustee, and the trustee's responsibility is to do what's best for the students. $750 million, cost is $25 per $100,000. Average house is about $400,000 of assessed value. It would cost the average homeowner about $100 a year, or about $8 per month. What does that $8 a month mean? That $8 a month, we're going to build new buildings, better security, but the most important part of that $8 a month is you have to send a message to the students. The students who attend Mount SAC, 75% of them are on financial aid. We need to send a message to those students that we believe in them, that their pursuit of higher education is important, and that we are willing to financially support them, and that is why I am in favor of Measure Go.
Ms. Luband? I'm also in favor of Measure Go, but I have my concerns and my reservations. I think that we have to be upfront with the city of Walnut about any project that we're engaged in. I'd like to see a CAAW, that's a community workforce agreement, in place. What that does is it establishes benchmarks and very specific guidelines as to what projects can be done. It actually requires reporting to the state, and it ensures that the tax dollars are spent fiscally, responsibly, and with a project in mind. At the same time, I want to make sure that there are implementations in place within Measure Go that account for the state anticipated total cost of borrowing against the bond, and also that contracts are awarded via some type of competitive bidding agreement. That would include a CWA. The issue with not implementing Measure Go is that eventually it's going to come out of the general fund. Within a couple of years, once the local control accountability formula actually takes place at the community college, it will be the college that will end up paying for these, and that means the students will end up paying for it. It'll take a few years, but that's what will happen.
$750 million is too much. That bond is too large. As I said earlier, Mount SAC Community College is an outstanding college at the present time, regardless of the $750 million. Look at the statistics from Mount SAC. Let me give you just a short history of what has happened in the past. In 2001, there was a $221 million bond. Keep track of this. In 2008, there was a $353 million bond. Later, there was $132 million in state matching funds. That was a total of $706 million over the last 17 years. Now they want an additional $750 million. The question is that necessary to improve the already outstanding standing of Mount SAC College? No, I believe that they need a laser approach to bonds. They're projecting what students will need in 20 years. What students will need in 20 years, no one knows right now. Things are changing so fast, they change every 5 years. So the bond should have been a smaller amount. They should rewrite this bond, and if they want to bring it back to the public, it should be done in 2020 at a smaller size, just like Walnut Valley University.
Thank you, Mr. Collins. All right, next we'll start with Mr. Chow. What have you done to help or support Mount SAC and its students?
Could you repeat one?
Sure. What have you done to help and support Mount SAC students, or Mount SAC College itself?
My history of giving starts 5 years ago. The president came to me and he said, I would like to have tutors for the students for math and English. And so my charitable foundation funded that so that the students would have tutors. The passing rate went up on an average of about 20%. 3 years ago, we decided to fund a jobs program at the college. The jobs program was student jobs on campus in their chosen field of study, and we funded that for 2 years. This year we are funding a food insecurity program. 30% of the students at Mount SAC have food insecurity issues. And next year our plan is to fund the book borrowing, to increase the book borrowing program at Mount SAC. Because for some students, the cost of books is more than the cost of tuition. So this is what I've been doing for the college for the last 5 years.
Thank you.
The support that I've lent to Mount SAC has been the support that I've led to all community colleges. So I chair the committee for the California Teachers Association, and that was in career and adult technical education. What I did with that particular committee is I helped write legislative policy at the state level. Primarily, that part of the policy was in career and college readiness indicators, which we now see on the California dashboard. These are indicators which help us establish how we're going to judge career and college readiness, not only here at the elementary and primary schools, but also within college. One of the other things that I've done is help establish parameters for adult ed. So I helped write policy as well in the adult education block grant that allowed the establishment of consortiums for the delegation of funds within those consortiums for adult education programs. Although per se I have not been directly involved at the college with the students, I have been directly involved in writing a policy which has been implemented that has allowed the students to enjoy the programs which they have not just here at Mount SAC, but on the state level. Thank you.
I have been involved with Mount SAC over the past 4 years in a very up close and personal way, and it's been with advocacy. We have been involved in trying to open up the process of Mount SAC's decision-making when it comes to developing projects, complying with California Environmental Quality Act, CAAW requirements, trying to create a balance of input between the community as well as the needs of the students. I think when we elect a trustee, trustees are elected by, for the main part, taxpayers. And I don't think we elect trustees to just simply say, at a certain point, my only concern is students. This concern of a trustee has to always be a balance between the needs of it's a community college, the needs of the community college and students. So my involvement has been as an advocate. I have seen the areas of Mount SAC that need improvement, and those are the areas that I want to work on. And I have been an independent voice. I've noticed that at Mount SAC, sometimes there is a go along to get along attitude with policy making. I'm not a go along, get along person. I will speak my mind and stand firm and be independent.
I've been teaching there for 22 years, 7 a.m. in the morning usually, or 7 to 10 at night, because I have a real job during the day at a CBA practice on a morning. So I've been involved with Mount SAC by going there 2 or 3 times, 4 times a week for the last 22 years. I've been in the inside looking out. I've seen college develop. I helped with the Regional Chamber of Commerce by signing a contract that has a farmer's market involved Mount SAC. I brought that while I was with the Chamber into Mount SAC. I've been part of this community, and I'm very much into, I'm sorry about the mic again, but very much involved with the community, with the students, not just the students.
Wonderful, thank you. We've received many questions about this, and I'm sure we've all experienced it. What are some creative ideas that you think the Mount SAC can do to tackle the traffic situation, Grand, Amar, Temple, surrounding the college? We'll start with Ruth.
So I think there's several things that we can do. If I'm not mistaken, within the implementation of Measure Go, there is the idea of establishing a walkway, which would help alleviate some of that traffic. So students could actually travel across the walkway to the campus, because there would be a way in which they could get back and forth to campus. We could also establish another parking structure, which would be further down not within the area of the west parcel and not within the current area of the structure, but there could be another area of parking which could be alleviated down from the campus. There's also some creative ideas that were tossed around by using different ride-share services and aligning them within the structure of the campus as well. That could be another alternative, so instead of using parking, using creativity in terms of ride-share services that we can establish directly to the campus might be an idea too.
Thank you.
You have two issues. We have current traffic based on current student population mixing with current Walnut population and visitors that come into Walnut, and then we're going to have a future traffic problem. The current traffic problem is bad enough. Many of our intersections are rated F, and the Mount SAC and the city still have to solve that problem. Some ideas can come in the form of electronic signs that indicate or posted at certain intersections, or even closer to the freeways, that can tell students, don't get off on Grand, go all the way to the 57 and get off on Temple. There can be electronic signs in parking lots. Don't turn into this parking lot, go further, instead of students driving in parking lots, not knowing where the parking spot is, and creating congestion back on Grand Avenue. But if we don't do something about the reality of Mount SAC's sustainability, then traffic is going to get larger and larger. It's going to become more and more congested. So there's an issue of dealing with Mount SAC's sustainability when we talk about traffic.
Well, the traffic, go up Grand Avenue, let's see if we can do any kind of an into Mount SAC parking just below the sanctuary area. Let's have a one-way entrance into the parking area that's on the south side of campus that is parking structures that are not permanent. And so I'm seeing that we have an entrance to keep the right-hand turn where the sanctuary area is. Cut the right-hand turn there by making an entrance on the southern part of Grant, not out, because of the way that it works. But I just visualize that we can come into the campus on Grant, the parking that's on the south side underneath the sanctuary, and have it go in one way, because the main problem is at the time 7 in the morning, 8 in the morning, 7, 8 at night, when everybody's bottleneck trying to get there.
There's plans right now to, in the bond, we're going to build two parking structures on Bonita and Temple. There will be a pedestrian overcross on that site. There will be a transit center at Bonita and Temple. So we're trying to encourage all the students to take the buses and the public transit to the college. There's also plans to widen Temple. Temple will be widened to be 3 lanes on the eastbound side, and that 3rd lane is supposed to be a direct access lane into the parking structure. And the parking structures are being moved eastward in the campus in order to alleviate the congestion at Grand and AWAR. So there are plans currently in effect to alleviate the traffic congestion at Mount SAC.
Good to hear. Thank you. All right, Ms. Collins, do you support term limits for trustees? Yes or no, and why?
I do support term limits. I believe that term limits restore a sense of credibility and accountability to the elected official. And it also encourages the community to seek higher office. It's hard to run for higher office when you have an incumbent that's been in that seat for 5 or 10 years, for 15 or 20 years. And I think the fear of being able to challenge someone at a shorter period of time brings greater accountability to that particular office holder. And I think that we need fresh ideas, fresh faces. We need community folks to understand that they can run for office and that no one owns a seat. And I think that's why I'm for term limits. I think it encourages all of that better community involvement.
I am also in favor of term limits. It gives new blood, new ideas, new procedures as far as without a power struggle of staying there for a long period of time, not communicating, not looking up the transparency that you get with setting up little groups, setting up the idea that we don't have to run for re-election because nobody's going to run after me. How many people are on the ballot for any of the positions that people have been in for a number of years that don't get challenged? So I'd like to see term limits in order to have new blood, new ideas, and not have the same old over again.
If we're talking about term limits, if we did something similar to that of the Walnut City Council, 12 years or 3 terms in your lifetime, I'm for that because I'm not going to be around in 12 years, I don't think. So, but I believe what Mansfield said is correct. I believe it is prudent to have term limits for the trustees. You need new ideas, and I'm all for it.
Well, it looks like this one's going to be easy. I'm also for term limits as well. I firmly believe that all elected officials should have a time at which they can stay in office and then gracefully be able to leave office to allow others to come into office and also infuse it with new ideas. To allow an elected official to stay in office for more than an extended period of time creates an atmosphere not only of stagnant ideas, but it does close it down to the community where no one feels like that they have an opportunity to express themselves. No one feels like they have an opportunity to be a part of the community. No one feels like they have the opportunity to actually be the community. So term limits are always a good thing. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, and we'll start back with Mr. Brown. Do you support the current college president, or do you think it's time for new leadership at Mount SAC?
I have to say he's my boss. I love it. I don't really want to comment on this point in time with that question.
I've known the president for 5 years now. A lot of the residents of Walnut do not see the side of him that I see. He's a very, very brilliant person. Students first is in his heart. His community relations skills are less than stellar, I'll be the first to admit. That is one of the reasons why they picked me to be a trustee. I'm supposed to fill in the gap. But if you have an opportunity, last night the president had a presentation, Mr. Brown was there. He talked about all the good things that the students get at the college. And this is the side of the president that many of you never see. He is a very compassionate man. I am a full supporter of the president of the college.
I have my concerns about President Scroggins. Although as a member of the Board of Trustees, it is your job to support the president as a member of the Board of Trustees. Although I do have concerns that perhaps President Scroggins' relationships with the community have not always been in the best interest of the community, and perhaps he has seen fit to implement projects and to go forth with these particular projects in the past without seeking input specifically from the city of Walnut or without taking into consideration how that might impact the city of Walnut. So I do have concerns. I don't think that those concerns can't be alleviated with the right type of discussion and or individuals on the Board of Trustees that are willing to question the president and make sure that the president does what the president's supposed to do, and that is the Board of Trustees gives the directive to the president. It's not the president who gives the directive to the Board of Trustees. Thank you.
A Board of Trustees hires, supervises, and ultimately fires if they're unhappy with the CEO that they've hired. I have had several meetings with Dr. Scroggins over the years. There's no doubt he's a smart guy. But his attitude in dealing with the community has been my way or the highway. And that has created friction between the city of Walnut and Mount SAC that's never existed before. And I have been an independent speaker, and I told you that I will speak up. If I run the current Board of Trustees, I would have asked for, after the lawsuits that were lost by Mount SAC, and after decisions were made by the current board that were supported by Mr. Scroggins, I would have asked for his resignation in the best interest of the college and the community moving forward. We need to be more like Laverne, the city of Laverne and the Laverne University. We need to have an interaction between the college and the city that other cities have that we aren't able to have at this point.
Thank you. Mount San Antonio College has spent hundreds of millions of dollars on construction funding and will spend hundreds of millions more if Measure Go passes. What is your position on project labor agreements, community workforce agreements, and do you support them?
Project labor agreements are agreements with the contractor where you want to hire local, and then the local, you can set certain stipulations. My position on this is I think they're good, provided it does not cost excessive amounts of money. As a trustee, my responsibility, if the bond passes, is to make sure the monies are spent as planned, the projects are built as designed, and project labor agreements, if they meet the criteria which allows us to meet these goals, I'm all for them.
So I wholeheartedly support PLAs and CWAs. The nice thing about a community workforce agreement is it actually does set a benchmark, a project, a time of completion, and a reporting deadline. You do not have the opportunity to go back and say, hi, I would like more money, please redo this project. And if for some reason the contractor cannot execute the project within that period of time, it is the contractor which is liable at that particular point in time. I think this is a great community building experience because as part of a PLA or CWA, you can ask that a certain percentage of the community actually is employed by the project labor agreement or the community workforce agreement. You can also ask that the school has a certain number of students which are employed by the CWA. In addition to that, you can ask that a certain number of students and community members within the community serve in apprenticeship programs served by the CWA. So what this does is it increases the involvement in business, in the community, and it also outreaches to students so that they have a good working job. Thank you.
I support community workforce agreements as well, but the key is enforcement of the actual accountability factors and accountability issues that are involved in making sure that it's working the way it was designed to work. I don't, under the current leadership at Mount SAC, I don't have the faith that there'll be a great outreach program to businesses in this city or surrounding cities. In fact, if you look at the businesses that are supporting the bond measure, that'll give you a good indication of who's in line for most of the contracts. The companies that have supported the Measure Go are companies that basically support bond measures up and down the state of California. Bonds are big business. Community workforce agreements are fine, but if you have a board of trustees that's going to look the other way and still find a way to give the contracts to those that supported the Measure Go campaign, then the community workforce may be a good idea in spirit, but it won't work in reality. You need to have someone that will in fact implement it. I would.
Yeah, I'm also in agreement that we have accountability with project labor or community workforce agreement. We have the ability to go and supervise or have to set up correctly that we can control the project a lot better. Yep. Okay. I have got in favor of project labor.
Thank you. How much have you raised and spent on your campaign, and who are some of your major funders? Yes.
So far to date, I've raised $15,000. I believe I've spent all of my $15,000. My main contributors are individuals and the California Faculty Association. I believe that answers all the questions. Thank you.
So far, I have raised money that I have had to write checks for out of my own personal funds. I have pledges for donations and contributions. I started late in this campaign, and I think if I had started earlier, I would be able to have more donations to report to you. But my donations up to now are under $2,000. And I've just been working as hard as I can, as fast as I can, to catch up with others that have greater treasury behind them.
I haven't reached out to ask for a lot of support. I have got none.
Jeff?
I received about $9,000 in contributions from individuals. I have self-funded the rest of my campaign in the amount of approximately $40,000. This week I got a call from Tilden Coyle. They are the contractors on our bond. And he asked me, he said he wanted to give me some money. And I told him, you don't have to give me any money. I told him, the money that you were going to give me, give it to the Mount SAC Foundation. I don't know how much the money he would have given it to me, because I really don't want to know, because if I knew, I might change my mind. But that is what happened, and so I felt that taking money from Tilden Coyle, the general contractor on our bond, would be a conflict of interest.
Thank you. So, thoughts to start? How do you balance the needs of Mount San Antonio College and its students with the needs of the city of Walnut?
You talk, and you talk early. You talk and you identify issues that you know are going to come up as time goes on. And you talk frankly, and you don't have an arbitrary cutoff as to what the outcome of the conversation is going to be. You have to be open-minded. You can't go into meetings and conversations with the city and the students' interest with a close-fisted mind. You have to be open-minded. So I think it takes a lot of communication. It takes the ability to be willing to listen to new ideas. It takes patience. And it takes an attitude of wanting to actually bring the city on board with the educational process, the way that, quote unquote, the community in community colleges was meant to be.
Well, I'll see if I can speak up a little louder this time. But what we have is we have a community. We don't just have Walnut. We have Walnut and a lot of other communities that we have to serve with the students. And so the balance of needs, we need to balance the needs of the community along with the needs of the students by way of reaching out. Let's go to other areas that there's buildings that are not occupied, keep the commute down, work in the different city, reach outreach to different city areas around so that we don't have everything coming into Walnut with the driving. We can go and do like other colleges do, and that's have off campuses in other areas. So balance the needs, get the traffic down by reaching out and having students be able to not have to commute.
I was asked this question at a faculty forum, and I have the same answer today. My decisions on what I do as a trustee of the college is going to be primarily based on what is the best interest of the students. I am a Walnut resident. I have to balance being a resident with being a trustee. But as a trustee, you have to look after your students. That is your fiduciary responsibility. I hope that any differences between the city and me doing what is in the best interest of the students can be resolved. But if it comes down to a difficult choice between the best interest of the students and what is desired by the city, I'll be up front. I have to take the position that I have to do what is in the best interest of the students because that is my job as a trustee.
So Mount San Antonio College does service the city of Walnut. This district services Covina, West Covina, San Dimas, as well as Walnut. And it's important to understand that the students within this area are a very diverse group of individuals. We have homeless students. We have students that are socioeconomically depressed. We have students who come to school without food. We have students of color who are not being represented within their community. We have students whose interests need to not only be represented by the city of Walnut, but they also need to be represented by us, trustees. We have students who need to be earmarked for the future. And so the job of the trustee is to provide for the needs of the students. I understand that we need to mend the interest with the community, but the students need us. The students need to ensure that we are providing for their services and that we are helping them.
Thank you. Pasadena City College and Rio Hondo College have been moving forward with satellite campuses. Mount San Antonio has not. Do you support satellite campuses? Why or why not? Starts with Mr. Brown.
Absolutely. I want to get the traffic down. I want to interject the fact that we're moving into a different environment. We're moving into an internet age that people are doing online classes. And this is getting further and further into the blockchain, the different terminology that you're going to hear through your life because blockchain is coming in to help the internet. With that, we're going to have less commuting. We don't need the structure that we're starting to build at Mount SAC now. We can use some satellite offices in a lot of other little cities that our community college reaches out to and takes in the students. So I'm very much in favor of satellite office and working where we're working on the fact that we're at a different age right now. It's no longer a blackboard.
The college has a program called dual enrollment. This is where the college has its professors teach at the local high schools. We have dual enrollment with Pomona Unified, Hacienda, La Puente, Bassett. We do have certain dual enrollment programs. To go to a satellite, we can probably expand that out and maybe use those same campuses as some satellite campuses, but at this point in time, the focus is on dual enrollment, and I will look into seeing if we can move it into other areas.
So yes, we do have dual enrollment at high school campuses. I don't know because I do teach at a district in which we do have dual enrollment. Also, students can concurrently enroll. That means that they can enroll at the high school and then they can come and attend the college as well as enroll. The issue with satellite campuses, though, just from a fiduciary point of view, is the cost. So if you put a satellite campus in place, what happens is you now have to pay for administrators, the cost of custodians, the cost of the satellite facility. So every time you expand the campus, you now expand the cost to the college. So without actually looking at those numbers, to say here at this microphone that I would support a satellite campus, that would be way too premature because actually there is a huge cost that's associated with that, and that would take away from the students that are currently attending the college right now, as well as the students that are currently enrolled in those concurrent and dual enrollment courses.
I favor satellite programs and online learning. Mount SAC covers 17 cities and 9 school districts. Within those school districts, there are many empty classrooms because attendance trends just did not meet the expectations. There are other buildings that could also be used for satellite programs. What I'm suggesting is, we don't have to build satellite campuses and incur large costs. We could have programs on a satellite basis affiliated with and in partnership with other community colleges or with space that is not being used within school districts that are part of the Mount SAC area that it covers. And that will keep costs down. Without satellite programs, without satellite campus idea, we're just going to be, in the future, we're going to have more students coming to Mount SAC, and it's not good for the learning prospects of students because they're going to be stuck in traffic, long lines, stressful waits, long graduation wait times.
Thank you. I believe Mr. Chalice is to begin. What are the biggest challenges facing Mount SAC over the next 4 years?
The biggest challenge, I think, facing the college is the funding methodology. The governor has changed the way community colleges are being funded. Used to be funded on a full-time equivalent. Now there's a certain perks. You want to nudge your students more toward graduating or transferring to another four-year institution. This is the fiscal challenge of the college. The second challenge of the college is teaching smarter. We need to find ways to get our passing rates up. There are other social issues because a lot of the students who drop out of college, 80% of those who drop out, only 20% is because of academic reasons. The other 80% who drop out of college is because of other personal or financial reasons.
I would agree with the funding formula. That will be the largest fiscal challenge the college is going to face due to the weighting of the new funding formula. Students who receive a 2-year degree within 6 years, actually that's pretty hard to do if you're going to work full-time. They receive the majority of the weight of the points from the funding formula, and students who are receiving career technical education services don't receive as many points. And so with that being said, there will be unequitable funding in a couple of years. The college will actually end up losing money after the 3-year grace period. On top of that are mental health services. So we need to do a better job of providing good counseling and mental health services to our students because our students are suffering from a larger barrage of mental health services due to lack of adequate housing and social services which are given at home. And then finally, it would be adequate school safety. So we need to make sure that our campuses are safe. Not to say that Mount San Antonio College isn't safe, but we're constantly want to be concerned about providing adequate school safety on college campuses.
Mount San Antonio College has an excellent academic history and academic ratings currently. Over the next 4 years, it will have to decide whether or not it can maintain that same high standing of educational achievement and high ratings with an increase of unregulated growth and an increase of students that are coming to an institution that has limited space, limited classrooms. Right now, the teacher ratio at Mount SAC is 41 students per teacher. That's too high. Mount SAC is going to have to develop a sustainability task force to determine whether or not it, at the present time, has reached a level that it can basically say, this is the student population that we have today that we should maintain because this is the population level that we are getting good results at. If we grow to 65,000 students, if we grow to 70,000 students, students will be hurt. They have to make that decision within the next 4 years.
You've got to look at the technology that's happening in our world today, that online education is here, and a lot of students just need to be able to get into the path of being able to work with computers, work with the current technology, because that's where we're moving. Online is not that fun to teach because you're not interacting, but that's where we've got to reach out and be able to teach our students how to get technical, because that's where the jobs are, that's what we're moving to. So we've got to focus on the changing society, the change in our communities, because we're not shopping like we used to. And we're not teaching, we're not having classrooms like we used to. We have to interact with the internet and be able to have the students be able to keep up with the rest of what's happening in the rest of the world.
Thank you. I believe Mr. Linden, questions to you. What are the top 2 things you would like to see changed at Mount San Antonio College?
So one of the things that I'd like to do is actually create a community college funding roadmap. And that would allow the college to determine how to maximize its funding for a new funding proposal that's going to be happening. That can help students complete their courses in a sequence that will allow them to actually get through their program within their necessary timeline. That would be one of them. I'd like to promote and provide more access to the community college programs that seek to help elevate our students and assist them, both our minority students and our students that are economically disadvantaged, and so that they can receive the services that they need. Don't know if you know this, but of the 60,000 students that are currently attending Mount San Antonio College, we have programs like Aspire, and only 6,000 students are utilizing these programs that can help our students become future leaders and maximize their education. I'd like to see those programs become more widely used.
I would like to see Mount SAC develop programs that are geared to immediate student needs, and not so much project out 20 years as to what they think students will need in 20 years. Scientists will tell you right now, and economists will tell you right now, that they can't tell you what the job market is going to be 5 years from now. But they can tell you what the job market is right now. I think that Mount SAC should, number 1, develop programs that get students that want to go from community college into the workforce able to do that within 2 or 3 years, quickly. I think number 2, Mount SAC needs to develop a better program for students that want to graduate on to a university or a Cal State. They have a nice rate at the present time, but they need to do better at that.
We need to be able to communicate to our students what's there. There's so many different opportunities that we've got that people don't have any clue what they're doing. We've got to work on having education of what's available. We've got to get them into a job, career path, because a lot of things don't require a college degree. They require you to be able to think and show up on time and work in an environment that requires you responsibility. So we need to have the students focus on what is career available. There's a lot of jobs that don't require the degree, they just require you to have the responsibility and an education to be able to punch a time clock and go to work.
There are 2 things I'm looking to push at the college. First is because 75% of our students are on financial aid. I found out that when a semester starts, 60% of the students have their funding in place. And so that may sound really good, but that means 40% don't have their funding. And if you don't have your funding, you can't buy your books. You can't go to class. And so I want to change the technology and how we process financial aid so that more students can have their funding up front when the semester begins. Second thing is, I would like to see us focus more on job retraining. A lot of the jobs that exist today will be gone in 10 years. A lot of you in the audience who might be in your midlife may have your job gone. We need to train and prepare for that day in the future, and that is where the president is going. That is one of his focuses. And so this is why I support those 2 items.
Thank you. Rio Hondo Community College recently made college free for first-year students. Do you support that at Mount San Antonio College? I think it's supposed to Mr. Collins.
I would support that with the following caveat. We can only, Mount SAC has to recognize that it can only teach can provide a quality education to an X number of students, a designated defined number of students. And when it gets larger than that, Mount SAC has to realize that sometimes you have to say, students, there are other colleges, community colleges that you pass by to come to us, that you should seek some programs and classes at some of the other colleges. I believe that, yes, education should be an opportunity for all, regardless of their income. But again, there have to be limitations placed on the number of students that can come in based on whether that will affect and result in a decline in the quality of the education that we're going to see.
Yeah, I would support having free tuition. The tuition is so reasonable now that the funding of getting people in to sit in a classroom wouldn't be that much of a challenge with the financial aid that's out there, with the different opportunities out there. We could definitely develop a program, I feel, that can handle that first year to get them in the door, to get them educated on what's available, where they can go after they attend class and they complete a program. Get them a job, but let them in that first door free.
What we're talking about here is AB 19, signed by the governor, and it was funded free college tuition for all community college students enrolling full-time starting September of this year. That is what the legislature touted. It is not exactly that. What it is each college gets a block money to use for free tuition or Board of Governor waivers. And so what Mount San Antonio College has done, because 75% of the students are on financial aid, it doesn't make sense to waive it for the other 25. So what I've done is I have spoken to the president and I said, why don't you use this money for other non-tuition costs to reduce it? So the college is considering using this for book vouchers for the students because, as I said earlier, sometimes the cost of books is more than the cost of tuition.
That statement is actually correct. What AB 19 does say is that it does give a block grant of money to a college to decide that they can reduce tuition or provide free tuition. The college does have the autonomy to be able to decide what they're going to do with that money. I would support free tuition at the college if that makes best fiscal sense. However, if the majority of the students are already receiving free tuition, then maybe some sort of implementation mechanism can be provided where those who don't receive tuition can, and those who do can receive tuition vouchers for books or materials or something of that nature. Rio Hondo has a different college makeup than Mount San Antonio College does, which is probably what is implemented in the case of Rio Hondo, actually utilizing their block grant for all free tuition for students.
All right, well, thank you, community members, for all your great questions. We want to give time to allow for closing remarks, but thank you. There's still a lot of questions we weren't able to get to, but I know that the candidates will probably be sticking around for a couple minutes. Maybe you can ask them your questions. It's been a pleasure being your moderator. Our past president, which was Dr. David Hall, was the president of our Chamber of Commerce last year. And my mother graduated from Mount San Antonio College, and my son is currently at Mount San Antonio College. So I hope whoever succeeds here does a great job for our students. So with that, we will start with Mr. Collins to go ahead and provide a 1-minute closing statement.
I believe. Is it on? Okay. I believe in the quality of education that Mount SAC is providing should continue. I also believe that that the Mount SAC should reach out and have better relationships with the surrounding communities that it services. I also believe that in combination with those two ideas, that you'll have a more vibrant student population, you'll have a more vibrant student education, because you'll have a setting where communities and college don't see themselves as separate and apart from one another, but they'll see them as interrelated. So I believe that the future of Mount SAC is based upon good planning, maintaining their current standards, but also understanding that we all have limits, and we all have to learn to live within our limits.
I've been involved in the community. As I said before, a couple of chamber of commerces in the area. We've got the regional chamber of commerce involved in, president to give back to the community. Those are non-paying positions. I've been at Mount SAC for 22 years. I've taught at Rye for 6 years, University of Laverne for 3 years. I've been involved in this community, and I've given. I'd like to give more. I'd like to take the inside of being involved in the classroom, being involved with the students, and bridge that with the business relationship that I've created, because I've been a practicing certified public accountant for 40 years. So please, let's change the flavor, and let's change where we're headed. Let's get along, everybody in the community, and work together. Vote for me.
Why am I running? As a trustee, you can do a lot of good for the students. You have the ability to nudge monies toward academic and non-academic items to assist in the students in all the hurdles they face. Whether your views are favorable or unfavorable to the college, we all are probably in agreement that the college does an excellent job of educating and adjusting for the needs of the students. As a trustee, as I said earlier, the constant question you always ask is it in the best interest of the student? A vote for me is a vote for the students. And our reply back to you will be, thank you for believing in us. Thank you very much.
I'd like to thank you all for coming out tonight to hear our ideas and how we want to lead Mount SAC into a better, brighter days ahead. You know, the state constitution actually gives the Board of Trustees the authority to set policy for Mount San Antonio College, which I consider to be a very weighty and awesome responsibility. It's one that I do not take lightly. We are charged to make sure that all voices are heard, and that's students, staff, classified staff, and all of our administration as well. You know, the Board of Trustees needs a fresh voice, and one that's willing to speak out. You love your open spaces, and I respect that, because that's why you live in the city of Walnut. You deserve someone who will keep that in mind when considering the plans for the college and to meet the needs of both the faculty, the staff, and the students. You know, in the classroom, what I teach my students is that when an old idea doesn't work, you need to find a creative solution for a new one. And I think Mount San Antonio College and the citizens of Walnut need to find a new creative solution to help mend broken fences. So I believe my experience and ideas allow me to be the best person for that. Thank you.
All right, well, thank you. I want to take a quick second to introduce one of our current Mount San Antonio College trustees, Laura Santos, who's joined us tonight. We also have our Walnut Council member, Eric Ching. And Walnut Councilwoman, Nancy Chagars. Mayor. So can we please, hopefully you all stick around. Oh, and Andrew Rodriguez, Councilmember Andrew Rodriguez from City Walnut as well. Back there. I hope you guys are all sticking around, because the next is the Walnut City Council candidates. In 5 minutes, the Walnut City Council Candidates Forum. Can we give a round of applause for all your candidates, please?